Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, the IOM targets over 70 shelter managers for training ahead of the start of the hurricane season. 2 Calypso finalists among 10 competitors in this year's Dom Festa Song Contest, and 1 lucky man fished out of the sea after spending hours fighting to stay alive. The details of the news coming up.
I've been in the business for over 16 years. I get up in the mornings and I look forward to having the next cruise ship berth on island. When the visitor steps off the ship, the first impression is me. And I believe that I need to put my best foot forward and to ensure that everything I do it to the best of my ability. Based on my recommendation, visitors go to various sites, restaurants, bars, and vendors. I take that responsibility very seriously. I would like that the guest receives the same service that I have provided to that individual or guest. This business is bigger than me. Everybody plays a role. The cleaner who cleans my bus, my mechanic who does my checks, those persons ensure that I provide a quality service to the guest. The tourism dollar doesn't just stop with me. It allows me to pay the bank, visit the supermarket to feed myself and family, and have a drink with friends. My name is Jenna Gist, and tourism is my business.
Here are some tips to reduce mosquito presence in and around your home. Keep water storage containers properly covered. Remove containers that can collect water from your surroundings. Keep garbage bins tightly covered. Pick up your litter and remove all tires from your yard. Keep gutters free of leaves and twigs to prevent stagnant water. Prevent Zika, dengue, and chikungunya. Fight the bite. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
This message is supported by Flow. The Caribbean Regional Track Project Steering Committee meeting of the Pilot Program for Climate Resilience, PPCR, officially got underway in Dominica on Wednesday. Andrea Louis has that story.
The Climate Investment Fund, CIF, through the Inter-American Development Bank, has provided grant funding to implement the Pilot Program for Climate Resilience, PPCR. The PPCR is an operational program under the Strategic Climate Fund and is executed globally through 9 national programs and 2 regional programs. One of the regional programs is being executed in the Caribbean and consists of 6 participating countries, namely Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Haiti, Jamaica, Grenada, and St. Lucia. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Climate Resilience, Karen Prevost, says the funds from the PPCR have been used to help build up the country's resilience.
Over the past 5 years, the Commonwealth of Dominica has been implementing PPCR-supported investments through the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, or the DVRP. And in Dominica's case, the financing provided by the Climate Investment Fund has amounted to $7 million, a grant of $7 million. This investment is really entrenched in the spirit of sustainable development, and the main objective of the PPCR financing is to reduce the impacts of climate change through investments in capacity building, data development, and creation of hazard monitoring systems.
Prevost says among the areas of special focus are improving resources for meteorological work and undertaking a massive reforestation project.
There are some activities ongoing, including the development of a national hydrometeorological network, which will lead to establishment of early warning systems, which is very critical for us. Added to that, under the DVRP project, we will also have the construction of a building for the Met Service, and that is going to be very critical in addition to the hydromet network under this project. We are also looking at the rehabilitation of the forestry nursery in Pocasset, so working closely with the Forestry, Wildlife and Parks Division.
The PPCR is being executed over a 5-year period through the University of the West Indies Mona Office for Research and Innovation, MORI. A total of $10.39 million has been allocated to this project, which comes to an end next year.
More than 70 shelter managers are receiving critical training ahead of the official opening of the 2019 hurricane season. The training is not limited in scope to hurricane preparedness, but also covers preparedness for other natural disasters, including fires and earthquakes. The training is being made possible by USAID and the International Organization for Migration, IOM. Vananda Raymond is one of the trainers who completed her own training last week. She's now passing on what she learned to other shelter managers.
I am a member and a volunteer of the Dominica Red Cross, and through being a member of the Dominica Red Cross, I attended a training of trainers looking at training of adults and with a focus on the training of shelter managers. I also serve as the chair of the disaster committee for the Trafalgar, Shawford and Forcani villages and communities, and therefore the training was an important aspect of learning more about disaster management and how we manage shelter and provide for shelterees within our shelters.
How different was the training for you than traditional methods and principles, you think, looking back?
Well, as a facilitator myself, I always look for opportunities to learn more. And the training specifically focused on the training of adults. Now, when you train adults, you need to do things differently. We often say that children have a very short span. Adults sometimes even shorter. So how do you engage them? How do you ensure that they participate in the training and learn the key messages that comes from the training? So it was a very different approach, and which allowed participants to not only learn, but to share in the learning of others as well. And that I found different in that training.
So today you are participating in basically passing this information on to these shelter managers. Share a little bit about the experience and what they're being taught.
Okay, so last week we spent 5 days learning the content and the material that we're supposed to impact, and today we're serving as facilitators. And some of the key things that they will look at is the role of shelter managers, whether shelter managers fit in the disaster management cycle, what are the activation mechanism, what is the response, what is the early warning preparedness that we are supposed to make. So it's a number of sessions and titles, a number of sessions that we will look at, and they would be focusing on. So they will first look at internal displaced persons. What is the definition of an internal displaced person, and how do we prepare for internally displaced persons? And then they will move on looking. The training is within the context of Dominica, right? And how are shelter managers, they zone in their responsibility in taking care of these internally displaced persons. They will also look, right, at the humanitarian principles, humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and also independence. How do we build on this and ensure that persons within the shelters are taken care of?
Adhering to best practices within the shelters is another key area of focus for this training.
Are we looking at the basic human rights of shelterees? Are we looking at ensuring that when families enter a shelter, that they stay together to provide the support? Are we engaging the persons within the shelter to provide assistance for others within the shelters? And what are the key role and support agency that support us post-disaster? And how does all this tie in terms of our national policy? And most importantly, how do we as citizens contribute to ensure that we are all safe post-disaster?
Sounds from listening to you, shelter management is serious business.
It is serious business, real serious business. And to inform that persons taking on the role of shelter managers are volunteers. So therefore we need to provide them with a support team that encourage them to continue to volunteer. But the communities that they serve within also need to participate with supporting the shelter managers to ensure that our shelter is our key stakeholders, the persons who are displaced, who have lost their homes, whose family may be dead or injured. How do we support these persons post-disaster?
A recently revamped prominent social club is looking to develop stronger linkages with stakeholders for the benefit of vulnerable groups in society. JCI Dominica, which was established here in 1959, has been inactive for a few years and was reactivated in 2016. Club President James Rodney says during its renewed stint, the club has come under some trying times. However, he applauds members who stayed committed to the task at hand.
Well, it has been a very testing time. I mean, we always tend to go back to say about Hurricane Maria. We cannot run away from that. It has been a very testing time for us during that time. And I think after that, it really was a testament to the whole mindset of the organization now, as opposed to what it was before. You know, the mental strength of the members has been very instrumental in seeing that the organization is sustained and it continued after such a disaster. Because we had the risk of so many of the members migrating and not returning. But we were very fortunate that people understood what the mission was and they came back.
Rodney says continued dialogue with stakeholders is a key component of the overall plan to execute the cadre of projects for the betterment of various groups in society.
Despite some of the few challenges, again, we need a lot of support. We can never run away from that. We need support in a lot of ways, be it through financial assistance, be it through tangible assistance, sometimes even just to provide advice, you know, and just give us particular avenues or opportunities for us to be able to execute some of the projects that we have in line. That's what it is all about. So we're going to continue to have that dialogue with stakeholders. You know, we're going to continue to sensitize the public on what JCI is, what it stands for, so that they can get a better sense of what it is and that they now can feel a sense of lending their support to the organization for the benefit of us as the members to continue to develop as young leaders and also to inspire other young persons.
JCI Dominica will celebrate its 60th anniversary with a host of activities later this year. And one man has a lot to be grateful for following his rescue at sea. It appears that those aboard the ferry involved in the rescue came along at a critical time for the man who had been in the water for several hours.
Yep.
One eyewitness who was aboard the ferry shared his experience in this voice note.
While we were going, when we leave Martinique going St. Lucia, we get a distress. They send out a distress call to all vessels saying that boat that go missing from St. Lucia, fishing boat, it had 3 fellas on it, and the boat sink. So they tell us to be on the lookout in case we see the boat or we see the fellas, because the boat sink with the fellas. So while we are going now, while I was by the captain tell me to. He don't tell me, but I heard the message on the radio when they were speaking to him. So we were there looking out for them fellas, and all of a sudden while we there, we just see the captain say, look one of them fellas. Yeah, so we had to go and rescue Mr. We rescue him, we put him on board. Mr. was hypothermia kicking and all that thing. So yeah, we had to give him warm clothes, but he was responding well. He told us it was 3 of them that gone fish. 1 o'clock in the morning. That was 1 o'clock in the morning. Since 1 o'clock in the morning, Mr. in the water, you know. So that's for the time we pick from 1 o'clock in the morning to the time we get in. That is 14 hours, Mr. in water. So he said the boat engine give problem, and the boat start to take water, and the boat sink. And he said that one of them now, when the boat was going down, he said he can't swim. So he had a barrel. He was floating on a barrel with a tank. So all of them were together in the water, but the current strong. So all 3 of them separate. You understand? All three of them separate. So it's Mr. We end up getting on the two others. They don't know. I don't know. The Coast Guard came on. The Coast Guard tell us they go and look for the other fellas. Yeah. So we don't know what happened to the other two. But Mr. We end up getting Mr. Mr. can say thank God for that.
You are watching Channel 5 News. We'll have more after this.
TB estene e ben tout se, moun ki en bonne santé oli wen ka respire se vermine la. Moun ki pani bon tempérament kon sa ki ni maladie HIV, alcool, ka fumé, ti mamay e grand moun bien sensible pour ces maladies ça là. Moun ki ka tousse ni pou prendre précaution le yo en parmi moun en place publique. Couvert bouche ou le ka estene et tousse. Visitez docteur et ben place santé. Fini tout traitement yo ba ou sa joine guérison et puis maladie TB. En responsabilité ou aider du bout si men maladie TB et HIV. Protéger corps et les autres.
Since Hurricane Maria, the International Organization for Migration IOM has been on the ground helping to build resilience on various levels. Community Engagement Officer Maxine Aline Esprit took us through some of the significant work that has been done by the humanitarian agency under this current IOM project funded by the USAID.
We have several activities going on that are aimed at supporting increased preparedness, emergency preparedness. So we have been supporting the Office of Disaster Management in meeting with the communities, for instance. So we've done shelter repairs of emergency shelters in 12 communities, and we have been working along with the Office of Disaster Management to meet with those communities as well. One, from our standpoint as a humanitarian agency, it is always important for us to engage the community to let them know what it is that we're doing in their community, so they don't just see IOM t-shirts and USAID walking around and they have no idea what's going on, because it's important for people to understand and to be involved in what is going on in the community and to be able to give feedback and recommendations, comments, whatever. So that's one, but also to strengthen the community disaster preparedness. So in each community we do an assessment with the village council as to what is the disaster preparedness mechanism in that particular community. So we sit with the village council in a focus group, and if they have a disaster committee, we sit together and we say, well, okay, what are some of the things that you have in place? What are the strengths? What training do your disaster committee members have? What training do they need? What is it that you need as a next step in terms of ensuring that your community is better prepared for a disaster? And coming out of that assessment, then we go into a public meeting in the community that would assist the disaster committee or the village council with engaging their community.
In communities where the disaster committee is defunct, IOM helps with getting volunteers.
In other communities you have active disaster committees, and maybe they want to speak about a particular hazard. So they may be well organized, but maybe they have not engaged their community in planning or in knowing what is the plan in the event of an earthquake, for instance, or a tsunami. So we can assist them in communicating in that regard. So different needs based on the need of the particular community, then we tailor what our communication is side by side with the Office of Disaster Management to ensure that consistent messages are passed and that people are prepared. One of the big things is also that as communities we have to recognize that hazards are not limited to hurricanes. So right now we are in May, we are approaching the hurricane season, so everybody becomes a little more aware and they say, okay, I need to have my emergency bag packed, I need to put my passport and my documents in a plastic bag and know where they are. But hey, it's not just in preparation for hurricanes, it is at any time. You could have a fire at your home at any time and you want to have an emergency bag that you can grab and go. You could have an earthquake is a quick onset hazard. So you have certain things that a hurricane, the good thing about a hurricane is that you have warning. Generally, you know that there is something on the horizon. You may not know the extent, you may not know, we cannot predict exactly how strong it will be, but you know that something is coming, so you go out to the supermarket and you do your shopping. But you don't know when a fire might break out. You don't know when an earthquake might happen.
And 2 Calypso finalists are among the 10 performers who will be vying for the title of Festa Song Contest winner next month. We go again to Andrea Louis for more.
Activities for Festa started late April and will continue throughout the month of May. Showcasing short stories, films and documentaries, an art and craft exhibition and a Creole spelling bee all form part of Festa Celebrations. The Dominica Institute for the Arts will host its end-of-year concert, which in itself will have distinct features.
It will feature 2 special presentations, the Song of the Cicero musical by Pearl Christian and Coppelia the Ballet. There will also be performances in steel pan, guitar, hip-hop dancing, keyboard, and creative dance. The entrance fee is $10 for adults and $5 for children. On Saturday, May 18th, all roads will lead to Colibri Street for the Festa Community Showcase, which is an initiative the division started after the passage of Hurricane Maria. As we believe that culture helps in healing and unifying people, we decided to focus on communities that were severely affected by Hurricane Maria. Last year we were in Point Michel, and this year we are in Colibri Street.
The grand finale, which is the Festa Song Contest scheduled for 1st June, will see the likes of Calypsonians Webster, Webb Marie and Janae Jackson, as well as DBS Christmas Song Contest winner Carson Birmingham. Acting Senior Cultural Officer in the Division of Culture, Giselle Hyacinth, gave the full lineup of song contest competitors.
So the 10 finalists who compete on the big stage are Webster Marie, Carson Birmingham, Royette Laura, Janae Jackson, Nicole Alfred, Kenneth Challenger, Nathaniel Dura, Alicia Ducre, Reginald Samuel, and Elijah Roll. The Cultural Division would like to thank the following sponsors and partners: the Discover Dominica Authority, Dominica National Lotteries, DBS Radio, Dominica Social Security, Aid Bank, and the Colibri Street Planning Committee for your support in the staging of Festa 2019.
The Festa Song Contest will take place at the Windsor Park forecourt on Saturday, 1st June from 8 p.m. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
Here are some tips to reduce mosquito presence in and around your home. Keep water storage containers properly covered. Remove containers that can collect water from your surroundings. Keep garbage bins tightly covered. Pick up your litter and remove all tires from your yard. Keep gutters free of leaves and twigs to prevent stagnant water. Prevent Zika, dengue, and chikungunya. Fight the bite. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
This message is supported by Flow. To end the news, a look again at the headlines. IOM targets over 70 shelter managers for training ahead of the opening of the 2019 hurricane season. 2 Calypso finalists among 10 competitors in this year's Festa Song Contest. And 1 lucky man fished out of the sea after spending hours fighting to stay alive. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You may access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.